You guys, I'm going to introduce you to one of the most fraught, fear-inducing, and misunderstood topics in drumming. No, it's not sponsorships or virtual wedding bands. Is that a thing? It's the jazz brush. If you're trying to learn jazz drums, you know you need to learn jazz brushes. So you search the web, or maybe ask people for advice, and they tell you to learn patterns. So you check out the Ed Thigpen book. Maybe you check out Jeff Hamilton. Then you watch players like Bill Stewart or Clayton Cameron. Then maybe you watch players like Peter Erskine, who will tell you to do exactly the opposite. Eventually, you get frustrated and put the brushes back in the tube, on the other side of the room. You know you should be working on them, but just like getting out of the habit of exercising or falling off the wagon, the more time that passes, the harder it gets. Well, my good people, I'm here for you. I'll explain why learning drum brushes is so hard, and show you why it doesn't have to be. Stay tuned. Here's Greg Hutchinson playing the brushes. I want to keep this in your head so you can remember how cool brushes can sound when done well. Okay, now let's talk about why climbing the brush mountain can be so frustrating for a beginner. To begin with, there are multiple things you need to do with the brushes. You need to play ballads. You need to play slow tempos. You need to play medium tempos. And you need to play up tempos. Forget about thinking out of the box and just having the freedom to improvise the way you would with sticks. Add to that, there are multiple patterns you're supposed to learn. Maybe you've studied with a teacher who showed you something like the Philly Joe inward circular pattern. But there's also the Ed Thigpen Bill Stewart thing. Or maybe you see Peter Erskine's outward circles. And nobody makes it clear which you're supposed to use in each situation. But the other problem is some of those patterns require pretty fine motor control. Meaning until you spend months to years mastering the motion, they're pretty much gonna suck. Like, try this at home slow and try to get a smooth sound. Or this. So today I'm going to give you a grand unified theory. Something that knits together all the situations you might find yourself in with brushes and requires the minimum of fine motor skills. Here's the first principle. Principle 1. It's easier to circle inwardly than outwardly. If you've got both hands making a circle from out to in, it's probably going to produce a smoother sound than in to out. You can try it right now. Make a smooth sound like this. Now try making a smooth sound going the other way. So, first thing to practice, making smooth circles with both hands. Start with the left. Go as fast as you need to make it smooth. Because that's the other fine motor thing we'll talk about. Stirring the pot, as it's called, slowly is death for beginners. You don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. You want some velocity. Makes it a lot easier. Now, circle with the right hand. Whereas the left was making a slightly smaller circle With the right, we really want to cover the whole circumference of the drum. If playing your hands in isolation sucks, even when you allow yourself to go fast enough, don't fret. When we join our hands together, it'll be easier to produce a smoother sound. Now we're going to join them together, and this is our first, most basic pattern. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The left hand is circling inwardly, making a small circle, and the right hand is circling above and below it like this. So the right hand is really making kind of an Olympic ring shape. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It might feel awkward to do it this way at first, but there's a good reason for it. If both hands are at the apex at the same time, they're going to clash. So it's useful to think of this like left under right, right under left. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one other thing I like to do with this, which is a slight downbeat emphasis with the right brush. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You get that by flicking and pressing just slightly. And you can experiment to get the right touch. So that's your basic slow tempo pattern. If you want to, you can ghost the kick drum on all 4 and add the hi-hats on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. But what if you want to play or imply swing 8s with this? Are you just supposed to tap with the right hand?
Tap it in. Give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, tap-a-roo.
That's going to sound lame. So it's here I'll introduce a little pivot I got from Ed Soph. That's it. Just make a little flick with your left hand right before the downbeat with the right hand. Here's what it sounds like in context. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. You can even it out if you want to practice it this way too, like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the basic. You can also do the tap. But that's harder because you're relying on the left hand alone to stir the pot. But I'd use that in big band situations where the volume is higher and you have to project a little more. Okay, so now you've got a ballad pattern. But what if you want to play faster or different stuff? Aren't you stuck in the same issue you were before, with needing to learn multiple patterns? False! What if we couldn't invent any new patterns? What if we had to work with only the pattern we already know? But let's take that same pattern and speed it up. Eventually, you're going to arrive at this. So this Olympic ring is just going to become this half moon shape. Let's just isolate the right hand. It seems crazy to remember, but remember, you're just starting out doing this. Then you're just simplifying the motion. There are two things you can do here. It becomes easier to do the tap. But you can also do the add so flick thing. And by the way, guess what we're doing a way easier version of now? That Ed Thigpen Bill Stewart pattern. The side to side is a fine motor skill. But if we work our way up from the Olympic rings, the half moon gives a way more robust magic carpet sound and requires less fine motor skill. Oh, and if you wanted to play in 3, that becomes super easy with this. Great, so we've learned medium slow. But what about medium fast? Don't we need a pattern for that? Not exactly. Eventually, we're just doing the Philly Joe thing. So now we're doing Philly Joe and Jeff Hamilton, but we got here organically. Let's review. Slowest with the left hand is these full circles every downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. As we speed that up, we get to this half moon thing. If we go even faster, we start to do inward circles every 2 and 4. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. What's the right hand doing in all of this? Well, if we truncate the half moon, we're basically just doing this side-to-side swish tap thing. But the most basic motion would just be to do the tap. Remember that because at the end I'll show you something else you can do that'll knit together the skills you've already learned. So what about if you want to play really up? Of course, by now you know the punchline. I like the Philly Joe pattern until it gets pretty fast. But when that happens, you just revert to half notes. Now we're back at the Soph pattern we learned super slowly. Just add a pickup tap to the right hand and we've got our pattern. But that's the least interesting thing about up-tempo. Remember that side-to-side swipe we learned for medium up? Well, that lets you play triplets. And when you're playing that up-tempo pattern, you can make these cool groups of 2 and 3 and 4. Have we threaded the needle? Hopefully that's a useful crash course for those of you struggling to knit together all of those weird and disparate brush patterns you see in books and on the internet. Oh, but let me give you a little bonus one. There is an application for the outwardly moving circle, and that's when you want to get a really robust sweep sound on 2 and 4. I also use it to lay a carpet under certain things like Bill Stewart does. That stuff is extra credit, but you've already got a system to play the most basic stuff, so you can start experimenting. And hopefully that'll make brushes a little less intimidating and a little more fun. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson, and if you've been checking out the channel for a hot minute and feel like maybe you're ready to go deeper with me, particularly with the brushes, I recommend my course, the 80/20 Coaching Course. which we only open a few times a year, and we only open to people on our mailing list. If you'd like to get on the mailing list, I have a way for you to do that, and I'm also going to bribe you. If you click right now on the link below the video player and enter your email in on the next page, I'm going to send you 3 mini courses completely free that'll make your playing better in the next 3 weeks than it's gotten in the last 6 months. Dudes, it's been real. Always enjoy doing these for you. See you soon.